What's up, gangsters? Time for the rarest thing on the internet, and that is a completed project video from Rube Goldberg Enterprises. So yeah, this is finally, after a year, the end of the tiny Sherman project with the Tamiya 1/48 Sherman Easy 8. If you're new to the channel or just don't pay attention to my nonsense, I've already done 6 videos on this thing. And so this is not going to be very long. I know I always say that, but this time it's true because I also have a cold and I just don't feel like talking much. But I've covered it ad nauseum. And so really all I'm going to do now is just show you the finished result and say a few things about the weathering. And so yeah. Let's take a look at what I managed to accomplish. Okay, so there it is, and here it is. And as promised, I'm going to just say a few things to wrap it up. Yeah, so as far as the kit goes, I guess in summary, it's pretty cool. You could totally build this thing in a weekend and just paint it up. And, I'm sure if you were an experienced armor guy, that would be a quick and fun thing to do. For me, I thought this was going to be like a good way to just sort of get into doing, some armor, that it would be relatively easy and straightforward. But I forgot to account for the one problem there, and that's me. Because, I just can't, do anything the easy way. I did, however, really enjoy the process of micro-engineering all of the little gizmos and 3D printing them. And I think it adds a lot to the model. That's the sort of thing that I love to do, and the effort was worthwhile. But it's also the kind of thing that you don't just notice immediately when you look at it, I don't think, anyway. So there's that. I'm never going to do this again because, once again, I have learned a lesson or reinforced a lesson that I've experienced quite a bit over the last couple of years, and that is that it doesn't really matter that it's smaller. I'm still going to do stupid shit. I just can't help myself. And so it ends up taking just as long, but it's maybe harder because it's smaller. And here's the really important thing is I end up being less satisfied with the result because it's just harder to get a clean, tight result. And I don't mean clean in the not weathered sense. I mean clean in the flaw-free sense. It's just a lot harder when it's that much smaller. And look, I got mad respect for model makers that can do it, but I just don't think that's ever going to be me. And I don't really want to practice enough to get there because it's frustrating and I feel a lack of satisfaction. And look, this is supposed to be fun. So yeah, I don't see this ever happening again. I don't even know if I'll ever build another tank at a larger scale. I don't know. I might. I don't know. Somebody said that they looked at this thing and they didn't feel like the real pop from it. And I'm not sure if that's because, like he thought, I just didn't have the love for it. And that's not wrong, because while I enjoyed some specific parts of it, like the micro engineering and the weathering and the 3D printing, the overall thing just didn't really fire my imagination the way other subjects have. And I learned a lot and it was cool overall, but it just didn't, like, as much as this is, I'm pretty happy with the overall result. And I actually like it better than anything else I did in 2023. I struggled to just really want to work on it. And he felt like that showed. I suspect that that's not totally the case, but that it's also because just the nature of the subject. It's just kind of dark. And as much as I tried to put a bunch of layers and a bunch of stuff in there, even when I'm sitting here looking at it under good bench light, daylight outside, it's still just kind of dark. And I feel like it photographed pretty well, but there's only so much you can do. And so what that means is that the only way for this to not be so dark is a style change. Because I pretty much just followed all of my normal instincts with this. And even with trying to give it some pop by doing this whole, handy field green and black expedient camo on the steel applique armor, you can see that by the time it's all said and done, it's pretty muted. And yeah, sure, it looks realistic, I think, and authentic, and it looks, cool enough. It just doesn't have a lot of color pop. And the only way that that's going to happen is if you start from the beginning with a much higher saturation and higher level of contrast. And that's just not my natural thing. That's more of an Uncle Night Shift thing. Martin's style, though, has also shifted over the years. And you can really see that if you go back and look at his earlier stuff. He started much closer to the sort of thing that I'm doing here, kind of going for more realism and authenticity. And now if you go watch his videos, you can see that he's got a much higher contrast. And he even talks about this, a much more stylistic appearance, if you will. So anyway, I don't know. Maybe it's because I just didn't feel the heat, and maybe it's because it's just, given my natural style tendencies and the nature of the subject, it's just not going to have the kapow, as Chris put it. But at any rate, I'm pretty stoked with it because when you look in there, you know, you can see, like, what I like is the depth, the layers, and hopefully that comes through in the photography. And what I did to finish it out, as I said in the last video segment before this one, is I sprayed a very dilute layer of tan Liquitex ink that I thinned with X20A, and then I came back with a sponge and a paintbrush, and I just futzed with it, and you know, removed it and rubbed it around and did things to it to hopefully give it a look that makes sense. Like right here, I don't know if it's going to show up on this camera. In the little view screen, the contrast level is not super high. But hopefully you can kind of see that what I was going for was to have it sort of rubbed off in areas where, you know, the crew would be doing stuff, like around this round hatch right here, which I have no idea what that round thing is. It just seemed like a good thing to try to illustrate that. And I try to also do it around the hatches here on top. And then I came back and I did oil work to even further accentuate that. Like, you know, these dudes have got grubby hands and they're always resting them on the edges of the hatch opening and grabbing the grab handles. And, you know, that's going to leave some, you know, oily and grimy residue and stains like they're on the edges of the engine cover. You know, that's all oil work right there around the fuel fillers. You know, and I think that adds some pop and tells the story. It's maybe a little heavy-handed. I don't know if I would do it quite the same, you know, next time around. But overall, I'm not too displeased with it. And then, you know, like the fuel stains, same thing there. You can choose different colors, but, you know, I feel like this is a pretty authentic look for what happens when gasoline or diesel runs through an accumulated layer of dirt. And I literally did that by just taking my Tamiya brown panel line wash and putting it inside that little semicircular opening and let it run out of the hole, the drain hole there that I added, and come down here and then flow down the slope. This is just natural flow of a petroleum distillate. That's really, you know, mineral spirits is really close to diesel in the order of things. It comes out of the refinery distillation column pretty close to the same point. That's why it smells like diesel. And so I really love the way that looks, but it doesn't like pop if I had used some different color tones. So, you know, those are choices. But, you know, overall, I think that I got what I wanted. You know, the hand-painted name on the barrel. I was able to incorporate all of the things that I found from looking at a bunch of reference photos and get, you know, what I was after. And I'm pretty happy with it, but it doesn't just, you know, I guess it doesn't just fly off the page. So, you know, but it is what it is. And overall, I'm pretty happy with it. One thing I'm not happy with, you know, because this thing definitely is not perfect. I did add the rope to hold the jerry cans, and that was a whole, like, 2 hours of rigmarole to tie a half hitch with a loop. And it sort of came out, but I ended up having to, like, tighten it and glue it and then do the next part and glue it. And so it ended up being a little gummed up right there where all the knot is. But the real thing, and I've been busted up by my friends on this already, is that this string, as it's sewing thread, and as much as it looks like authentic rope, it's just a little too hairy, little too fuzzy. And of course, after the fact, I got told all the tricks like wax and stuff that the ship modelers use to keep that from happening. So if I were going to do it again, you know, that's what I would do. But, you know, that's that. Somebody also kind of busted me on the tarps, kind of not, you know, really fitting in. And I don't disagree, but I honestly don't know what to do differently because paint's paint. And while it's pretty easy to make all of this stuff look like metal, that's been painted and gotten dirty or rusted or whatever. It's a different thing to make these look like cloth, canvas, when you're using the same materials. And so look, I don't know what to do differently. It is what it is. I'm open to ideas. But again, overall, I think I'm relatively stoked. When I got in there and started working on all the photos, I saw all the things that I'm not stoked about. There's a lot of flurm in this paint. And part of that is that it's just so damn small that I just didn't see a lot of it. And there's just things I missed, like the molding witness on the shaft for that hatch right there that I just somehow completely overlooked or ignored or whatever. But like I said, like I keep saying, it is what it is. And while this certainly would not, probably do well at something like an SMC, up against like actual armor modelers who actually know what they're doing, I don't feel bad about it. I'm for my first tank project, maybe my last tank project, I don't know. I kind of want to do something in 1/35th to sort of prove to myself that I can do better at a larger scale, but that's going to take a subject that I'm genuinely interested in, and I don't know what that's going to be. So anyway, we'll see. I don't know what else to really say about it. I've covered all of the details in the video series that precedes this episode. And so I guess that's really kind of the end. Okay, so there you have it at long last. Thus endeth another Rube Goldberg scale modeling adventure. And as always, I appreciate you watching if you stuck with me through the whole painful adventure. And as always, much love.